I'm John Lee, St. Louis Real Estate Investors Association, here with my wonderful wife, Laura, and our wonderful attorney, Miss Catherine Davis. She's going to fill us in on what's going on. We haven't seen her since, well, last year, I guess.
Yeah.
So, our world traveler. So, welcome, Kathy.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I think it's warming up. Fingers crossed. Um, I was, on a cruise last month, and I want to tell you that you screwed up because you were supposed to have winter while I was gone, and you did not. So, this has been not great for the last few years, right? I wanted
Oh,
to tell you, first of all, some sad news. Some of you I know knew the attorney Baker. I know he was active with your group and spoke a lot at your group, back in the day. And he kind of retired during the pandemic, and he had Alzheimer's. And he passed away, and the service was December 30th. So I didn't even find out about it until afterwards. He had Alzheimer's, and it says in the obituary, he gracefully endured Alzheimer's. He was just a great guy, great lawyer, represented a lot of landlords and investors. Definitely was a big, helpful person to me and mentor when I was starting out. So he's very much missed. If anybody is uh, is interested in helping out, the family has asked for memorial donations to the North St. Louis tornado rebuild efforts. And maybe I'll try to put this email in the chat. Um, if you want to, contribute anything in his
yeah.
memory.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Um, well, I meant to say Alan Baker in that message and I didn't, but if you send them a donation, reference that it's for Alan Baker in his memory. His um his nephew, Lorne Baker, is a judge in St. Louis County, and I hadn't seen Alan in several years because he'd been ill, but Lauren kept me up to date, with how he was doing. Um,
Mm,
so we're sad about that.
yeah.
And I wanted to tell you some other good news that probably is not out in the public yet, but I don't think it's a big deal. You can talk about it. You know how I've talked about the fact that tenants that get sued for eviction can file to raise the security level. So when you look at CaseNet, you can't see that they've been evicted. And there are different counties that are handling this in different ways, not all of which are really following the law. In St. Louis County, I have heard that the presiding judge there will grant that to anyone. And I know it's hard for the judge when the person's up there in front of him saying, "Oh, I can't rent a new apartment because the landlords look on here and they see my old eviction and then they deny me." And so fine, but I think you're entitled to know if this person is someone who didn't pay before and now maybe is going to rent from you and then not pay you. The law really is that there has to be like a good cause to raise the security level, and it's not just I can't defraud somebody else now because they know. It's more for people like victims of domestic violence and that kind of thing who need to maybe um, keep their location secret and that kind of thing. So the Supreme Court is cleaning up that rule, and the new rule is going to be a lot stricter, and it's going to go into effect July 1st. I've always told you guys that you should do sources other than just CaseNet when you're screening for a tenant. Professional screening is a good idea, screening that will do criminal backgrounds, that kind of thing. There's a lot of things now that get expunged on their criminal records. And, CaseNet is only Missouri. Um, there are, you know, obviously 50 states and we don't know what else out there. So if you can get a professional screening, do that. Charge the person an application fee to cover that cost. And, sometimes when you tell them there's an application fee, you never hear from them again. And that's because they know they're not going to pass that background check. So they're not going to waste their money on the application fee and waste your time. Um, and I will give you more news about this when I get the exact text of the rule and everything and how it's going to be. But this will help us. We have done in my firm, when we're doing your eviction, we're representing you. So if the say they get a lawyer from legal aid and they say we want to raise the security level, we will not do it, but we will tell them if our client wants us to do it to settle the case, that we will not oppose it. So that way our fingerprints are not on doing something that we don't consider to be in compliance with the law. It's the tenant's fingerprints and his lawyer. Well, we might be able to change that policy if they're only going to be able to raise the security level lawfully now. Um, we might be able to say that we'll do it sometimes, but we'd still probably mostly shift the burden to the tenant to do it. But it should be better as far as having stuff still appear on CaseNet for you to check out. And I also feel like when the person gets evicted and we have a money judgment and they get the security level raised, that doesn't give us a lot of leverage to get them to pay that judgment. I have always felt that the rule should be once it's paid, fine, let them take it off. But give us that hammer to hold over their head so that they'll pay you too. I mean, I don't think they should just be allowed to skip along down the road to the next poor landlord with no consequences whatsoever. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. And I know you guys are really good at sharing resources with each other. So maybe you can put in the chat names and contact info of your favorite screening agencies and your experiences with that. Okay, what else have I got for you this time? Oh, yesterday in court, we had something funny. We had a tenant we thought it was a tenant, a woman who came in and had done a motion to set aside a judgment. And she said under oath that she was Jane Smith or whatever the name was. She was not Jane Smith. She was someone else. And our client walked into court and came over to me and said, "That's not Jane Smith." So I went up to Christine, who was up in front of the judge, and said, "That's not the tenant." And so Christine called the client up. The judge got upset, because that's like what we call perjury, which is a crime. And there was back and forth all day, hilariousness with this. But it just goes to show you that, people will defraud you. And I mean, I think it's pretty bold to walk up in front of a judge and say, you know, my name is Laura Lee, and I'm not Laura Lee. Um, and I'm hoping that this person will get referred to for prosecution. I don't really want them to do time, but I want them to get scared enough that they'll say to people, "Oh, I lied in court and I got in trouble and I almost had to go to jail." I would like that outcome, because um, we just can't have people roaming into court and lying about who they are under oath. Um, it just complicates things so much more. We already see cases fairly often when they identity theft or lie about who they are when they apply or change their name slightly so that they can skim through some of the screening. But lying in court, man, they've crossed a line with me. Lying about who they are in court. That's a line. I know they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I paid the rent and they lost it," or, we had a guy in court yesterday who had these forms that you fill out at his credit union to track down a lost cashier's check. He hadn't actually submitted those forms to the credit union. He just got the forms, filled them out, and brought them to court. "Look, my cashier's check was lost." We're like, "Well, that's not proof of that. That's proof that you filled out that form. That's all you got, dude." He was also one of our wake and bake contestants where he got up in the morning and smoked a bunch of pot and came into court and just reeked the whole courtroom full. I told the bailiff, I said, "We just have to inhale. We don't have to spend money on marijuana. Just come to court and breathe.
Oh,
And we can get high for free." I mean, at 9 in the morning and you're wondering why you lost your job. I'm not wondering why you lost your job. Maybe you are. But oh my goodness, it's just like never a dull moment there. Um, I don't think I have anything else that's real new. I think there's some new ordinance in the city that the apartment association sent me to look at, and I haven't really looked at it yet, but it has to do with how many people are allowed per square foot. And like in my big condo, which is almost 3,000 square feet, apparently I would be allowed to have 400 people living there or something. I mean, it's it's just crazy. So I'm going to get back to you, or I will send this to John when we've reviewed it and discussed with Mandy. Because those of you who are city people, we might want you to be calling your alderman and say, hey, look, this is too burdensome, for our units. And we don't want people to have 10 people in the unit, or that kind of thing. It's too much wear and tear, too crowded, too dangerous. If there's a fire or something, you have to evacuate. We want them to bring that limit back down. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah,
Or,
I have a question, Kathy.
yeah,
If I had to send a tenant a pay or quit notice, this is in St. Louis County,
okay.
can it be done by email, or does it have to be mailed or posted on the
Let me tell you first of all, pay or quit is only required in Illinois, not in Missouri. In Missouri, you have to make demand for the rent. And that can be anything. That can be an email, that can be talking to them, a text, anything. And if you turn around and have to file suit against them because they still don't pay, the rent and possession suit itself is considered demand for the rent. So it's very easy to meet the burden in Missouri about um, about how you make demand for the rent. We don't recommend that you do nothing, that you just file suit. We recommend that you reach out in some way to try to get them to pay just for practical reasons before we file suit. But in case you didn't do that, the lawsuit will count as the demand. Someone just asked me about how long the sheriff. Hey, Chris, I think he's back from St. Charles. I thought I saw him. Ann Bollinger is asking me, how long is it taking for the sheriff to come in the city now? 2 or 3 weeks. It's settled down a little bit there, but they have a good former police chief as acting sheriff, but they lost a lot of good experienced people, and you know how that can be. And I'm pretty sure there's still a fight over who and how is gonna be the next sheriff. I'm supporting the bill that would let the judges pick. Because do you ever hear any scandals about the St. Louis County Sheriff? No, because the judges pick them. And the office runs fairly well, and they have experienced people, and they keep them, and that kind of thing. And the sheriff in the city and the county, in these bigger counties, is really an administrative job where what they do is they provide security for the courts, entering the courthouse, and our bailiffs in the courtroom. They process garnishments, summons papers, sheriff's cell paperwork, that kind of thing. And they do some transport of prisoners, although that's not really what their main job. That seems to be the main focus of everybody. They have to transport the prisoners. That's not really their main job. And honestly, in the city, they do a lot of arraignments and everything from the jail with the TV. So the people are not being transported anyway. They're they get brought to a little room in the Justice Center by the guards, and they call in from there. So the sheriff is not really law enforcement. When the former crazy sheriff Vernon Betts went on TV and said he was going to get rid of all the drug dealing in the city parks, he has no authority or the bodies even to do that job. That's a job in the city for the police. So that's what I would like to see. But I think they're going to have an election before then, and they're arguing about who gets to pick the temporary sheriff, but they've got an interim that people seem to be happy with. So let's just hope that everybody can get along until we can get someone permanent in there and try to rebuild that department. It is important to us, as Ann is asking, how long is it taking? Yeah, if you don't have anybody that knows how to process eviction paperwork and schedule eviction move outs and that kind of thing, and you don't have the bodies to go out in the street and do that, it's going to take longer. And as we always do over the holidays, they don't do evictions. So we lost a couple of weeks there and got maybe a little further behind. But right now it seems to be running okay. I just picked up a sheriff's deed down there this morning and they were all doing good, sitting there working. So they all seemed less stressed than they had recently. Anybody else got anything? Okay, good. You guys are all staying out of trouble. And I guess I will talk to you next month because I don't get to go anywhere for a while. So
Oh, no.
I know
Well,
it's
hopefully you
very
brought some of
sad.
that warm weather, Kathy.
Yeah, very sad. Well, hopefully it'll be nice this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
See you
Appreciate
later.
you all the updates. This is great. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon. If you need anything, you let us know, of course.
Okay, it's great to see you all. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye. Wow. A lot of good updates there.